going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the NBA Slate Starter Podcast. I'm Eric, joined with my buddy Ryan as we break down Tuesday's 5-game NBA DFS slate on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. All right, so I'm doing the NFL Live Before Lock shows on most Monday nights, so I don't get to play a ton of NBA when it comes to Mondays. I'm usually focused on that showdown, so give me an abridged version, if you will, of the NBA slate. I have like 5 or 10 lineups on both sides, but that's about it. Who is completely going off and either helping or hurting your lineups right now?
I mean, Sabonis absolutely smashed today. I think he went for a triple-double with a ballistic stat line of 16, 25, and 10. Go figure. That was a very impressive stat line. I'm not going to even lie. But Christian Wood had himself a 20-20 game, 24 and 21. Doncic shot 7 triples. Vooch went 30 and 14 with 6 triples. Just like those three guys just went off. Obviously, they all scored north of 60 points, all 4 of them. And if you find a way to get in all 4, you're winning a lot of money if you hit the right value spots. But guys that we talked about last night, we talked a touch heavily on Sabonis, and D'Angelo Russell was pretty darn solid himself. Donovan Mitchell has north of 50 points himself as well. But the guy who really paid off for people today was Kevin Porter Jr. He got the triple-double. His team really wanted to make sure he got that trip-dub. So KPJ with a nice triple-double, the first, I believe, of his career. That's kind of the nature of the slate. I had a really good feeling going into it, but I just was heavily loaded on these Miami Heat guys, and especially Lowry and Bam. They were good, but they were not excellent. And there were so many other guys who were, like I said, Christian Wood, Sabonis, Vooch, Doncic. Those guys were just way better than Lowry and Bam. It really kind of put me in a hole in a hurry.
I was crunching a lot, and again, we have the best tools and projections in the industry. I don't think it's remotely close, but I kept getting guys like Max Strus and then PJ Washington. Was he not in the starting lineup today?
No, they decided to start Nick Richards. That was some late news that came out. Yeah,
it was so weird. And again, that happened while I was on the show, and trying to react to a different sport while you're talking about another sport and trying to facilitate another sport. I tell you what, I don't recommend it for everybody, but it was still something where I think I'm going to survive this slate. I'm still going to be all right, I think, just in the grand scheme of things. Also helps a little bit lower volume while you're doing some NFL content. But hey, we are here to talk NBA. I'm going to be all systems go here for this 5-gamer. I'm going to be on NBA Live Before Lock tomorrow with Greg Ehrenberg. Come check that out. Come hang out with us before lock. It's been amazing the support we've had over there, but also amazing the support here for the NBA Slate Starter. Now that we're on our own feed, this is day 2 of being on our own feed. Looking forward to it. But hey, let's talk some NBA, shall we, Ryan? You ready to get going?
Let's ride.
Steph Curry on the top end on DraftKings, 11,400. James Harden, 11,300. Russell Westbrook, 10,800. LeBron James with that inevitable Q tag with that abdominal. I didn't think he was going to play. I'm glad that I ended up playing about 10% because I got second in the night slate over on FanDuel the other day. That worked out very nicely for me, and it was because LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Jeremy Grant, everybody, those 3 all went nuts in that late night hammer. Damian Lillard in 9,700, Fred VanVleet 8,700 there for him, and De'Aaron Fox 8,400. That tag is starting to rise, but against the Lakers and this Russell Westbrook defense, I still don't completely hate it. Talk to me about the top end of point guard.
Yeah, top end of point guard on a 5-game slate. We got some nice luxury options in guys like Steph Curry and James Harden. I really like both those guys quite a bit. Look, it's going to be an excellent matchup. Phoenix, I believe, is riding a 15-game or 16-game winning streak against this Warriors team. Both of these 2 teams are the class of the West. I'm looking forward to that. And then the other side of things in the Eastern Conference, we got the Battle of New York between Brooklyn and the Knicks. Both Harden and Durant, priced above $11K. Look, Harden's been disappointing, but I still think in a 5-game slate, you should definitely have some interest in him. I think I prefer going to Curry and Harden over Russ. I think Russ at 10-8 with all those guys back is it's not as exciting with one of those guys missing. But keep an eye on that situation on what the Lakers are going to do. I expect all those 3 guys to play, but as we know, what the situation is, LeBron getting older and all, and that put together. Dame Lillard on a back-to-back. They just got clapped by the Jazz, so I think Dame Lillard at 9-7 versus a very, very bad Detroit team. Dame Lillard could definitely pop off. I like taking my chances there. And then there's the mid-tier guys, Van Vliet, Booker, De'Aaron Fox, Chris Paul, CJ McCollum. They're okay. I'm moderate interest. Obviously, on a 5-game slate, you can sprinkle those guys in. I have no issues there. De'Aaron Fox taking on this Lakers team yet again. So this Lakers team and them, they had that triple overtime earlier on Friday. So I think De'Aaron Fox was pretty darn solid that game. I don't mind it at $8,400. How do you feel about De'Aaron?
I was saying that's kind of the guy that I don't mind at 8,400. I think he's even more advantageously priced at 7,600 over on FanDuel. So I mean that's going to be kind of the primary spot. But he'll also be much chalkier over there. And considering he's been available sub 8K, I think 8,400 on DK makes some sense going that direction. So that's kind of what I'm planning on doing. Tyus Jones 5,200. He isn't a guy that completely went nuts there. 24 minutes. I'm curious what you think about him, considering he was super popular at 4,800. Now they get the $400 increase for him. D'Anthony Melton, the guy who only played 18 minutes. Again, it's hard to really read into anything considering the 27-point blowout that they had against Sacramento. Sacramento wasn't competitive at all. I still expect Jones. I still expect Melton to garner a ton of attention at the position. Can you touch on that situation for me?
Yeah, that's an interesting situation to look at. Obviously, no Ja Morant for a couple of weeks as he recovers from that knee sprain. Tyus Jones is someone who's been solid when given the minutes, a very, very efficient passer. Barely turns over the ball at $5,200. I have some interest, but the key news that came out today out of the Knicks camp was Tom Thibodeau decides to take out Kemba Walker out of the rotation. And
you didn't like that, did you? I saw something in Awesemo Slack about that. You were not excited.
I didn't know he's been that bad to get out of the rotation. And then I looked in deeper. He's been really bad for this Knicks team. But it's still, I still think you got to give it some time. It's a new player, new system. And I think giving up on a player like Kemba Walker seems kind of a little too early. But hey, Tom Thibodeau is going to do Tom Thibodeau things. That means he wants to play his favorite son, Derrick Rose, at $4,300. I think that's going to be very popular against this Brooklyn Nets team. Him, quickly, Alec Burks are going to be that point guard backcourt rotation with no Kemba Walker. And Derrick Rose is simply too cheap at $4,300. Makes for a pretty solid value play, I think, on DraftKings for sure.
Yeah, he hasn't played for a week, but I do expect, I mean, we're talking 9 days ago that he played on the 21st. He's considered questionable. We should probably expect him to go here, but pay attention to that news. Again, I'll be on live before lock. We'll be chatting about such things, so don't worry about it too much. The last guy I'll throw into the equation, and Freddie Simons. He's always a guy that can pop with volume. He's always a guy that you can randomly play here in spots, so I don't completely hate it. It's just a meh play, always is, but on a 5-gamer, depending on what other value you get, that's kind of a spot to be looking at. But I mean, with Desmond Bane up there, point guard, shooting guard, also at 6K, somebody to look at. I mean, it's Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones, D'Anthony Melton. I think it's going to be a lot of popular Memphis pieces again. And then my guy almost, won me 10K the other night. That would have been great. Davion Mitchell. He's sitting there still sub 4K, 31 minutes for him there, put up 29 fantasy points in that blowout loss against Memphis. I think he's the one guy who's going to be immune from a lot of like crazy. I say that looking at his box score here against the Lakers in that 17 minutes there, that crazy overtime fest, multiple overtime fest, Lakers and Kings there in LA. He only played 17 minutes, but I do expect him to be somebody that's going to get more minutes going forward here underneath Alvin Gentry. You got to expect that he's going to just, they want to see what they have in him. And this Kings team is not good. They're not going anywhere. Let's be serious. So sub 4K for him. I like it. Let's head over to FanDuel here. Steph Curry, 10.8. James Harden, 10K. Russell Westbrook, 9,600. We got Dame Lillard, 8,600. Really advantageous there. Chris Paul, 8K. That seems like something that we should be looking at a little bit. But for me, Fred VanVleet, looking at him there, we just had all of these Toronto pieces there. OG Anunoby looks like he's already been ruled out. We've got Gary Trent, Gary Trent Jr., he's questionable. If you get both of them out again, I mean, Toronto becomes very fascinating against Memphis. Both of those teams will be popular, and they're in the early game of the night. We know how much I hate playing early games because of late swap, but what would your interest level be in Fred VanVleet and of the rest of this Toronto team should you get Gary Trent out as well?
Yeah, I'll definitely have some interest in him. I think, especially on FanDuel, $8,400, point guard only. So you might come in a little bit lower ownership than usual, just because of the nature of just him being point guard eligible. I like taking your chances on Van Vliet. Makes for an interesting decision point of him versus Dame. I do think I'll prefer Dame to Van Vliet, but keep an eye on that new situation. I know Steph Curry and James Harden. You know what these guys can do. It's a 5-game slate. One of them can pop off, but you're saving $800 off of Curry to Harden. And I do think you might get James Harden a little bit lower ownership potentially than usual just because of his struggles. But I like going to James Harden at 10K in a matchup versus the Knicks. It's fine. I think it's one way to maybe potentially get different as everyone's riding the Steph Curry rejuvenation. He's always been probably the best point guard I've seen in my basketball lifetime, which is post 2000 onwards. But
18-2, baby.
Yeah, he's been balling, and my favorite player in the league is about to come back, Clay. I'm looking forward to that. But
he's like my favorite player. So I didn't really like Golden State at the inception of Steph Curry. I thought it was just a juggernaut team that just kind of showed up. Like Draymond Green showed up. They got really good really quick. And then the Kawhi Leonard injury gave me them all the reason to just hate them for a while. But I've never hated Klay Thompson. I love that dude. I feel like he's just a dude. He's like running around, hey, I'm going to play basketball now. Murders people, quiet assassin, amazing two-way basketball player, and isn't selfish. For a guy who's that good of a shooter, he's very passive in spots where, he's either heat check and he's like, yeah, I know I'm not going to miss. He's also just a really good teammate, it seems. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. Freddie Swain, are you kidding me? Just scored a touchdown. What is going on? I hate NFL Showdown. Continue, Ryan. Go ahead.
Touching back on the FanDuel slate, 7,600. De'Aaron Fox, love that price tag. I think that's a pretty solid option. Cade Cunningham, I think, might be popular. He's been playing pretty well fantasy wise as well. Just getting acclimated at $6,900. It's fine. I think going to Halliburton at 6,300 as this Kings team is potentially still going to be without Harrison Barnes, so some extra minutes have sprinkled his way in the rotation. But going down to the next group of guys, I know there's guys like Jordan Poole, DeAnthony Melton, but I really like going to D Rose again at $4,600 here. I like Tyus Jones here at $4,600. Much more preferable price tag on FanDuel, compare on DraftKings. And that's really it. And I think Emmanuel Quickly deserves a mention. Point guard, shooting guard. Look, Quickly can be that guy. If there's trust within him to run the show on the next team, he could be an excellent pivot off D Rose ownership for sure. And I think that's an exciting tournament play against the Nets team with Emmanuel Quickly.
Love it. Point guard on Yahoo, Steph Curry, $50. James Harden, $48. Russell Westbrook, $42. I guess they just kind of assumed that LeBron James is going to be in there over at Yahoo. And so that's what we're getting Russell Westbrook at $42. And if you have no LeBron James, that should be mega chalk. So I'm kind of hoping that news doesn't come out. I'll maybe allocate some lineups to Russell Westbrook ahead of time and kind of go from there. Damian Lillard, 37. That's kind of expensive on the top end there still for him in his current role. Chris Paul, 34 here. Fred VanVleet, 33. De'Aaron Fox, 32. It really gets fascinating for me with Tyus Jones, $14. Man, is that going to be popular? He's probably the guy for me over on Yahoo. How about for you?
Yeah, over there in Yahoo, like you said, Tyus Jones, tough not to love that price tag for him, and that's going to generate quite a bit of ownership. But if you want to spread your ownership around guys like De'Aaron Fox, $32, Fred VanVleet, $33. But Dame Lillard stands out to me quite a bit at $37. Probably my favorite price tag at point guard, all things put together, upside, salary, quote-unquote value over there. I think Dame Lillard definitely sticks out to me in a matchup versus Detroit, only $37 on Yahoo.
All right, we're going to get a flying shooting guard on the top end here on DraftKings. Fred VanVleet, $87 or $8,700, excuse me. Again, we have a lot of these point guard, shooting guard eligible players. In fact, the first guy that is just shooting guard is Klay Thompson, who's out at $5,400. Then the next guy is Malik Monk at $4,200. On this slate, you're going to have some multi-positional eligibility, which is nice because you have multiple options. There's going to be less duplication in that kind of a regard, but also you kind of want to play your dudes. Cade Cunningham, you talked about 7,700, Tyrese Halliburton, 6,900, Buddy Hield. Hey, for the first time in my life, I recommended Buddy Hield on a show. I didn't predict triple overtime for him to get there with 44.5 fantasy points in that regard, but Man, are you going back to your boy here on Tuesday?
Yeah, Buddy Bucket's getting that price jump. Obviously, $6,600. Gets that 3-point bonus. I don't know if I'm going to be going there. I'll have a little bit of interest, but I'd rather be maybe spending up a little bit more to a guy like Cade, or yeah, I think I'd rather be willing to spend up to a guy like Cade Cunningham or
I have a
CJ McCollum.
theory. I have a Buddy Hield theory. I think they're going to showcase him, try to get him out of town. I mean, Buddy Hield, what is he going to be the best player on a basketball team? No, he's not going to be a second best player on a basketball team or a third best player on a basketball team that wins an NBA championship. But he played 30 plus minutes here in the beginning of this Gentry phase. And now, even in a blowout there, 29 minutes, 23 and a half fantasy points from there. We know he's a willing shooter. He's had, until that blowout game, he had 3 straight games of 11 plus 3-pointers attempted. I just have a feeling that this Sacramento team is going to look completely different in the next 3 months from now than what it looks now. And I think a lot of it'll be just trying to get guys like Marvin Bagley, guys like Buddy Hield at certain times. Like when it pops, you're going to be able to kind of notice. And I feel like Buddy Hield is just immune to sub 30 minutes here at the moment. And I don't know. This is the most interested I've been in him in a long time, mainly because I think the volume could just be there in a crazy way, especially with Harrison Barnes out.
No, I think you bring up a solid point. Obviously, they tried to trade him on the offseason. Things didn't pan out. And now with Alvin Gentry in the mix, I do think it's very DFS friendly. If he's going to be implementing his old system of ways, we'll give it some time to see if it's fully that. Yeah, at 6,600, I do think he'll be low owned, and I think definitely being above the field on Buddy Hield. And I think you brought up excellent reasons why. It's going to be tough to do that. If Gary Trent plays, I like him at 5,400. People are going to go to Alec Burks with him being the starting point guard at $5,600. He's always been a pretty solid offensive scorer and a decent fantasy player himself as well. How he's going to fit in the mold with the guys of RJ Barrett, Evan Fournier, Julius Randle, we'll see, giving it a time. But it's a matchup versus Brooklyn where I do think Alec Burks can be pretty solid. Derrick Rose also has shooting guard eligible, we touched on over that in DK, so it's going to be tough to move off a guy like him. In a slate this small, you're going to have to take some chances on some cheaper guys. If there's no Gary Trent Jr., Svi Mikhailuk would again be pretty solid at $3,800 if you were to get that run of minutes. But keep in mind on that situation if you want to take your chances on Svi.
Like it as well. Also, the one guy I'm very upset with myself, and again, it's hard to be upset with yourself on a day that you have a really good NBA night, but I was very high on trying to get to some Frank Jackson the other night against the Lakers, and he played 28 minutes there in that spot, went for 30 plus fantasy points, I believe. Nope, 30 exactly on the number on DraftKings. Almost a 10x action there. I mean, it's very strange to me that was somebody that I kind of had my eye on, but he seems like he's going to be playing more minutes in some spots. And if he shoots the ball well, not that he's Terrence Ross or anything, but if he shoots it decently well, he could see some extra minutes here and there. So he's had 31, 26, 33, 28. Those are some minutes that he's had in his last 6 outings. So somebody to keep an eye on. Sub 4K, I'm always looking for some savings, looking for ways to get different if I can in GPPs. Frank Jackson, last guy that I'll throw out, but pretty much going to be DraftKings specific for me because over on FanDuel, I believe, what is he? He's point guard only, I think, over there, and he's 4,200. I don't think he's nearly as necessary for that slate, but we can go Steph Curry 10-8 there on FanDuel. James Harden, Steph Curry's not shooting guard eligible. It's James Harden 10K. Devin Booker 7,900. FanDuel hates Devin Booker. They hate pricing this dude up. CJ McCollum 7,200. That thing keeps dropping. Cade Cunningham now sub 7K. Tyrese Halliburton. Why is it every time I look at shooting guard on FanDuel, I want to throw up?
Look, because you can roster up to 6 shooting guards.
And I want to, and I'm probably going to, and everybody else should too.
And you bring up some excellent options. I like spending up to James Harden. You guys got Booker and CJ McCollum only shooting guard eligible, so they're going to be a little lower owned than other guys on the shooting guard slate. Dylan Brooks, 5,800. He's never been shy to take up usage without John Morant. He's going to be very popular as well. So keep that in mind. Him and Buddy Hield the same price. I do think there will be quite the difference in ownership where I like Buddy Hield quite a bit over kind of this FanDuel price tag at 48, $5,800.
Yeah, me too. I don't know what to believe anymore, Ryan. I don't know what to believe. Everything is make believe. I'm recommending Buddy Hield for a second time this season. I really don't know what to believe.
Yeah, it's a new era in NBA DFS. But Derrick Rose also shooting guard eligible. He's going to be very popular and rightfully so at $4,600. And I do think there are excellent tournament plays and guys like Evan Fournier, Desmond Bane, who we touched on, DeAnthony Melton can rack up them seals, but they're priced appropriately. They're not priced too cheap or anything. I just think they're tournament options like last guys in. Nothing that no way a priority by any means in that mid-tier range over there on FanDuel.
And to our sponsor, Yahoo, CJ McCollum, $33, Devin Booker, $32, Cade Cunningham, $26, Jordan Poole, $23 here for him. Again, the Warriors have been exceptional. He's been playing 30-plus minutes a game here for the last 6. I mean, he's just, God, the Warriors are just incredible. 18-2. They lost to Charlotte, and they lost to Memphis. Those are 2 random losses, I think, out of the entire season. But I digress. Into Phoenix, this should be a very fun game. Jordan Poole, still probably not going to get there. Tyrese Halliburton, $22. De'Anthony Melton, 18. De'Anthony Melton, 15. Desmond Bane, 18. Those 2 guys really stick out at shooting guard, along with Svi Mikhailuk. If he starts again, $11. Emmanuel Quickly, $10. Good God, there's a lot of shooting guards on Yahoo tomorrow.
Yeah, there are some excellent shooting guard options. I think there's a guy who you did miss. I think I like quite a bit is Evan Fournier, only $12.
Oh yeah,
I think that's
a really nice number.
That price point definitely sticks out for Fournier. But Devin Booker, $32. Love that price tag. I think he's my favorite, obviously, spend-up shooting guard option. Prefer him way more to guys than McCollum and Cade at their prices. I really like taking your chances on a guy like D-Book on Yahoo for sure. But Fournier, Quickly, those Knicks guards, I think are priced very cheap, very favorably. It's a 5-game slate where we're trying to find some value, and those guys are excellent value to jam in some of the studs that we already talked about, guys like Curry, Harden. We're going to be touching on KD in the forward position. So nice value spots for these Knicks guards tomorrow. Kind of ride them when they're cheap before without Kemba being the rotation.
On Yahoo, on DraftKings, you can roster 3 shooting guards. I recommend doing it specifically on Yahoo for sure. Advantageous pricing, lots of salary savings, really nice. Kevin Durant, 11,100 on DraftKings at the top end of small forward. LeBron James with the Q tag, 10-4. Best of luck figuring out what's going to happen before lock with that. I don't think we're going to know. Scotty Barnes, 7K. Now he got that little tiny bump. I believe he was 6,600. Yeah, $400. That's a pretty substantial little bump there. Obviously, you already got OG Anunoby ruled out, so that's useful, but that's pretty expensive next to Dillon Brooks, who I expect to still garner quite a bit of attention. He only played 21 minutes there, but it was an absolute drumming blowout situation there, and his minutes have just been there instantly, and now with no Ja Morant out there, I see 30 plus in his future. I see a ton of usage coming his direction. Dillon Brooks at small forward at 7K alongside Scotty Barnes. Pick one.
Dillon Brooks alongside Scotty Barnes. That is a tough decision. I think I'm going to take my chances on. I'll take my chances on the, veteran usage hog, Dillon Brooks.
There you go. I was going to say, I don't want you to mold your take at 11:30 Eastern time here right now, but it's one of those things where they both just kind of stand out. They're going to be a little tiny bit. I wouldn't call Dillon Brooks an overpay. I think I would still call Scotty Barnes an overpay. That might make me a little bit more interested in Scotty Barnes just as a result of him being much lower owned.
I don't know if Scotty Barnes will be lower owned. I think him.
Yeah, I'll take Brooks every time. Then
I just think Brooks, because he's only small forward eligible, will be lower owned. I'm not sure though.
They're both just small forward, I believe, aren't they? No, you got Scotty Barnes power forward as well. Never mind.
Power forward as well. And I think those guys are fine. I think I'd rather. I wouldn't be the craziest thing if Gary Trent Jr. plays. I would like him quite a bit. I think Sadiq Bey is now $5,800. Very disappointing game last time out. He can get the 3-point bonus. The guy who's going to stick out like a sore thumb with ownership, and we'll see what that comes in at. He has small forward eligibility. Alec Burks, $5,600. It'll be interesting what LeBron James and Kevin Durant's ownership come in at. Obviously, we know what their upside is. But I think a lot of people are going to either stick in the mid tier or go all the way down. If you're looking for some cheaper guys, I think sprinkling in some value, Bruce Brown Jr., Nasir Little, sub 4K plays, minimal interest, nothing like a priority. If you're building 20 lineups, maybe you get a share or two of those guys in there. But that's how I feel about that small forward slate on DraftKings. It's going to come down to Gary Trent Jr. It's going to really change the slate with what his injury ends up final designation ends up being.
Yep, I'm going to be waiting on that. You all will be waiting on that. I'll also say, Tony Snell. These are the small things to pay attention to. Portland's on a back-to-back. Tony Snell started today. Nasir Little outplayed him like he outplays everybody because he's pretty good out in North Carolina there. Not that Tony Snell, we can't besmirch somebody who goes, 50, 40, and 90, right? He's in the 50, 40, 90 club.
I don't know if he played enough.
I think he shot 100% from the free throw line.
He was like 100. He was in that 100 club for a long time. He's those what did they call it? The Fitbit guy. Yeah, logs in them steps. Oh, he's great. He gets those Fitbit minutes in.
Fitbit minutes where he just runs back and forth and doesn't do anything else. I love that.
Doesn't do anything fantasy wise. I'm sure NBA coaches love. Well,
that's why Nasir Little started the second half. That was kind of the point that I was making. So I might make the stand that Nasir Little might possibly start if we don't have that news before lock. I think I might build the beautiful thing about this slate for all you late swappers out there, like Ryan, like myself. I mean, I'm sure we'll probably record our podcast earlier in the day tomorrow. Simply because you have 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. You have the Knicks, Brooklyn, Memphis, Toronto. And then the next games don't start. And you have an entire wave of them at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So you can almost play two different slates. One where you know none of the news if there's going to be no LeBron James news, where there's going to be none of that other news. And then you can play the one at 10 p.m. where you're going to know all the news because you'll have all those starting lineups. And obviously, I'm going to play both simply because I want people to make mistakes. I want them to not necessarily react to certain things. So LeBron James, I'll probably boost up a little bit more. And then if he ends up getting ruled in, maybe in the late slate, taking a lighter approach. So stuff like that, just to be cognizant of. I think that that's one way to kind of find your edge in the year 2021 because there are very few left. Late swap. There's really no way around it. Top end of small forward on FanDuel. Kevin Durant, 11K. LeBron James, 10.6. Harrison Barnes, he's doubtful. Not going to be plugging him in. But then Scotty Barnes is too cheap, 6,700. Alec Burks, 6,200. Actually, a more penal price tag, should I say, on him over there as opposed to on DraftKings. So you actually have to think about it for like 4 seconds. But then Dylan Brooks, you don't have to think about. 5,800. Is that the worst tag of the day?
The worst tag of the day? No, I think Derrick Rose is. I think
it's pretty bad too. But it's 5,800. Dylan Brooks on FanDuel. What are we doing here?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a big priority play over there in FanDuel, where he's shooting guard small forward eligibility. I think he's going to be a priority for many lineups over there on FanDuel. Guys like spending up top, obviously LeBron, KD have small forward power forward eligibility. They're going to be very low owned. And just keep in mind their upside. When any player on a 5-game slate can be the highest scoring player on the slate, you need to have interest in them in tournament winning upside lineups, I think. Other guys in the mid tier, I think Saddiq Bey makes for a great pivot off of Dylan Brooks. We touched on Buddy Hield being a pivot as well. And if you want to spend all the way down, I don't think it's very ugly. It gets ugly fast based on the news right now. I don't have really interest in anyone below 5K. Evan Fournier is 5K, and he's not that fun to roster at 5K on FanDuel. He's just been awful all year long. $78 million played to Evan Fournier, and it's just not working out right now for this Thibodeau-led squad. I don't really like anyone sub 5K. It's just an ugly small forward slate outside of Dylan Brooks and Saddiq Bey and Buddy Hield.
So I'm going to try to make Nasir Little a thing. Maybe we can get Nasir Little to start. That would be great. Last guy I'll throw in, DeAndre Bembry, played 34 minutes against Phoenix, 36.3. He's now put up 34-plus back-to-back slates. I think on FanDuel, Bembry will probably garner a little attention for box score watchers. Nasir Little, I'm going to try to make a thing. But yeah, Bembry's sub $4,000. So maybe that's one guy to maybe consider. What do you think about him just to round it out?
Yeah, I think if just looking for some extra value for stars and scrubs build, which so far is I think will be a unique build on a 5-game slate. Yeah, that will definitely help you lead you down that path. And DeAndre Bembry, those minutes are great, and minutes can take you a long way in NBA DFS unless you rename Tony Snell.
So true. Or PJ Tucker or Isaac Okoro rookie year. Maybe not Isaac Okoro going forward out of Auburn, Auburn's finest. Buddy Hield, $23. Dillon Brooks, $23 over on Yahoo. They're the most expensive small forwards. You're punting by default. That's something I say a lot. That's something I will continue to say a lot, but small forward, you're punting by default because OG Anunoby, Harrison Barnes, not going to be playing there at the top end of the position. Sadiq Bey, $21 there for him. He's the hero of the people. And by people, I mean me, because he got a rebound with 0.1 seconds left to make me a couple extra grand the other night on FanDuel. Yeah, that's a thing that happened. But we're talking Yahoo, our sponsor, of course, here. Taylon Horton Tucker, $17. I think with LeBron in there, not appealing as much. I know he played really well last time out in limited minutes, sub 30 minutes, but $17 still wouldn't be the priority when you have all these dudes. But specifically, the most expensive, or the most highest rostered player on the entire slate on Yahoo tomorrow will be Alec Burks at $12. What are we doing here?
Yeah, he's going to be very, very popular on Yahoo.
Over under 60% on Yahoo on a 5-gamer.
Probably higher. I
think it's going to be like 75%.
It could be even higher than that. Yahoo's ownership is pretty sharp. And yeah, he's going to be a tough fade. It's a game theory fade at that point, getting rid of Alec Burks. And if you're looking to pivot off of him, you're going to have to spend up to a guy like RJ Barrett or Bay or Wiggins or Dillon Brooks. That's a lot of dollars that you can spread around in other positions. Now, if you don't like Alec Burks, if you're looking for a cheaper pivot, Bruce Brown Jr., $11. I know he's the definition of a tournament play, but $11. And DeAndre Bembry, who you touched on, $13. Those are the pivots around him. But man, yeah, it would be getting a little too cute if you're not looking at Alec Burks over there on Yahoo as kind of like the starting point of your lineup.
If you don't have Jonas Valanciunas, go ahead and close that laptop. 43 DraftKings points at halftime. Oh my God. Marcus Morris got ruled out, and I just was curious what he was going to do. Well, he's got 29, 6, and 2 with 7 made threes in one half of basketball. Happy J-Val night. Go ahead and just if you don't have him, because again, it's already late. You're probably in bed already when we're recording this. But I digress. You know what? I got to just tell you, there's no better deal in the entire industry than this. New Yahoo users get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum with your first time deposit. That's $10 or more. That's the threshold. Take $10. Go ahead and deposit some of that holiday money that you might be spending on that cheap bottle of wine instead. And do yourself a favor. Get in, utilize this, because if you deposit $10 or more, deposit into any paid contest. That could be the quarter, the dollar, the $10, whatever you want to play over on Yahoo. You'll get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, and I guarantee you, over the course of a month, using our tools, you will make more than that cheap bottle of wine was worth. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And I know this because a schmuck like me is able to be profitable in DFS simply because I'm utilizing our tools. I mean, it helps to be able to talk about this every single day, but it comes down to what is behind the paywall and these tools that I get the access and the privilege of using every single day. And now you can too, for free, for that first month with a $10 deposit on Yahoo. Stop guessing, start winning, but check out Yahoo today. And as always, thank you so much to them for their sponsorship. We really do love playing over there, and there's massive overlay, and they have the most player-forward tournaments in the industry, bar none. So check them all out. All righty, let's head to power forward. 2 positions to go. We'll get ourselves out of here. Kevin Durant, power forward available over on DK, but we're going to skip that. Anthony Davis, 10-6. He's probable. I think 10-6 is probably pretty expensive to be paying for him there, unless we have an insane amount of like 3-4K value that shows up. Julius Randle, $9,400 against Brooklyn. If Kemba Walker isn't going to be out there, it doesn't matter because Kemba Walker is a shell of himself this season. Julius Randle's been really inefficient from the field the last 2, 3 for 8, 3 for 14. Hasn't been shooting the ball nearly as much, but I do expect for him going forward to be just fine. So 9,400 feels like an overpay there. Probably won't be popular, but maybe that's why you need to play him on a 5-gamer if you're going to be chalky elsewhere. Pascal Siakam, 8,500. That's intriguing. But the guy, Jeremy Grant, he's been a guy that even alongside Cade Cunningham, they're starting to not figure it out because they're just a terrible basketball team, but at least their stat lines are starting to get in sync where like Jeremy Grant can go for 32. Cade Cunningham can be a facilitator at times. I'm thinking Jeremy Grant at 7,300 is a guy in tournaments that I want to go back to again. How about you?
Yeah, Jeremy Grant, so his minutes, he's getting some extra minutes now, obviously. No Kelly Olynyk, he's been gone for some time, and Jeremy Grant's just finding his form again. I know he was on the Olympic team roster, and it was a long season. He was kind of the lead dog on this Detroit team last year. Maybe he was a little tired, and now he's just getting conditioned back up again. And Jeremy Grant was a stud for, I want to say, the first 60% of the season last year, and he's showing some signs of that over the past week. Priced appropriately, I think, at $7,300. You touched great points on KD, Randall. I'll be willing to go over the field on Anthony Davis against this Kings matchup. There's no stopping me there. But other guys who have upside, Draymond Green has triple-double upside. He's been pretty solid this year. Jaren Jackson Jr., someone who I expect the usage to go up. I would rather have him be the usage hog than Dylan Brooks at $6,700. So Triple J is someone I'm definitely going to be looking forward to roster. I'm going to spend down a little bit more. Marvin Bagley closed out that game. Yes, it was only closed against that game against that Lakers team because Alex Len did foul out, but they also did get waxed the other night against Memphis after that triple overtime game. So keep an eye with Bagley's situation. He's $4,400, but I would rather say $500 and take your chances on Jay Crowder. Even Brandon Clark at $3,700, I think might have some popularity just because of people looking for value on this slate. He did play some minutes last time out. It might be a little too cute. I'm not sure how I feel about Brandon Clark. And you already touched on Nasir Little at $3,500. Makes for an excellent play if the pathways open up for him.
In the positive category for Brandon Clark, I will say, look at the matchup against Toronto. Precious Achiuwa, those guys don't necessarily make up a model five. Like Steven Adams is like your typical five of, the last 100 years of NBA basketball. But you look at, the five now is a little bit more modern. It's not necessarily the Steven Adams type. It's the Jaren Jackson Jr. type and whatever else. Brandon Clark fits into that mold. But Toronto with Pascal Siakam, Precious Achiuwa, Boucher for like 5 minutes. So sad we can't even talk about him. And Scotty Barnes, I think it makes a lot of sense to be playing some Brandon Clark as a value piece. I think that there's a little bit of a minutes ceiling of 24, 25 there. I think if things go correctly. 16 there. It was a blowout. I don't really want to read anything from that Memphis game, but Brandon Clark did look great. 7 for 8. I don't expect the shooting efficiency, but I do expect some extra minutes than the 16 we saw there. I do think that fits pretty darn well. So I like that shout out. That was the guy I had circled. Thanks for stealing it from me, Ryan. I should never do prep for these shows again. All right, power forward on the top end here. I'm looking at Kevin Durant, 11K. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, talked about them. Julius Randle, 8,500, much more advantageous. Jeremy Grant, 8,100, less advantageous. But Pascal Siakam, 7,500. Scotty Barnes, 6,700. I got to be liking both of those guys. And, Draymond Green's expected to play, so we can't necessarily go down to one Toscano Anderson and try to make him a thing or discuss Otto Porter or any of these other cats down there. I think we're going to just have to assume Draymond's in until we hear otherwise. I believe he's expected to play, but talk to me about power forward on FanDuel.
The power forward slate on FanDuel, we mentioned the situation with KD, LeBron. We touched on Jeremy Grant. I think Jeremy Grant's too expensive, $8,100 on FanDuel. I love going to Pascal Siakam at $7,500. Probably my favorite power forward over there on FanDuel. He only has power forward only eligibility, so his ownership might be a little lower. Another guy who only has power forward eligibility who I like going to is also Beef Stew. I think hopefully he keeps his hands to himself and doesn't want to fight anyone on the Portland team. But at 5K, I think he's someone who I think can play mid to high 20s minutes and can produce pretty strong fantasy production out for that as well. But Marcus Aldridge is priced up now. And he's been paying off that price tag pretty consistently. I think makes for a solid tournament option. And if Rashawn Holmes were to play, that would definitely be a solid consideration in that Lakers matchup. Keep an eye on that situation. If he were to go, that would really crush the upside for Marvin Bagley. And if you wanted to go to Alex Len, but keep an eye on the Rashawn Holmes situation. That would change a couple things for the Kings for sure.
Absolutely. And on Yahoo on the top end, Kevin Durant's $51. Huge overpay, but It's freaking Kevin Durant. What do you want me to say? He's got a ceiling. That should shock none of you. LeBron James, $43 game time decision. Nice discount down to him, but don't want to be going nuts. This is a 5-gamer. There's still enough pieces that I probably don't want to go there. Julius Randle, 35. Draymond Green, 28. Jeremy Grant, 28. I feel like there's a lot of positions that have really stuck out where it's like, yes, you want to play these guys. I don't really see it over on Yahoo today. Can you help me make sense of what I need to do over there?
What you need to do on Yahoo, I think you should take your chances on a guy like Kyle Anderson, only $11. That sounds gross, but it's $11, and that can do a lot for you. Other guys who are kind of cheap, Robert Covington's only $10. Look, these guys, Kyle Anderson and Covington, have a very preferable scoring for the Yahoo slate as they can rack up some steals. Jaren Jackson Jr., $27, is pretty solid, I think. I think you could definitely take your chances there. And I think Julius Randle is priced a little too cheap at $35. But it's not many options that you're too excited about. There's some tough decision points. Power forward is usually a slate Yahoo. If you find that you try to find it with a stud, but there's some strong value here where you can pay up for other positions.
You and I both need Amir Coffey to just get a little bit better at life here on FanDuel for this showdown. It looks like we've both got some decent lineups going. It looks like I just saw you at the top of the board alongside Awesemo. It's almost like you guys are good at NBA DFS or something. It's absurd, but you know what? I'm just a lonely little human being trying to make it in a big, big, scary world. But hopefully we can get just 5 fantasy points out of Amir Coffey as opposed to the 3 we have right now. Let's round this puppy out at center here. Anthony Davis, 10-6 on the top end of DraftKings. Julius Randle, 9,400. Pascal Siakam, 8,500. DeAndre Ayton, your first center-only guy, 7,100. I got to say, JaVale McGee was somebody that I didn't necessarily expect to be coming in and playing the other day. Well, he came in and he actually played pretty well. I don't really know why DeAndre Ayton hasn't really had a ceiling game in for a while, it seems like. Oh, I guess he had one against the Spurs. Oh, who would have thunk that? I was on my honeymoon. There you go. Didn't get to play him. But I still think at 7,100, I might want to take some shots on him there. That feels like way too low for him. What are you going to be doing with DeAndre Ayton tomorrow?
What are we going to do with DeAndre Ayton tomorrow? You should ask Robert Sarver that question. I'm joking. But DeAndre Ayton, DeAndre Ayton at that center spot, $7,100. I think I would rather go to Yusuf Nurkic at $6,400.
That was a dark joke, by the way. I just had to double check. I was like, that's the owner that's, oh, yeah, no, he's a piece of shit. Keep going. Go ahead.
But $7,100 against Golden State. Look, I mean, DeAndre Ayton has that upside to break the slate. That's why he makes for an interesting tournament upside guy. But I think I'd rather be willing to save a little bit to guys like Nurkic, Holmes. As gross as it sounds on Marcus Aldridge. Isaiah Stewart is too cheap, $4,600. I think I really would like to take my chances there, but I think a lot of people are going to go even cheaper to Precious Achiuwa at $4,400. I think they're just going to roll out the minutes for that guy, and I think he's just going to go at $4,400. Matchup versus Memphis, I think, makes for a pretty strong value play over there on DK.
All right. I think that all of those make sense for me as well. Yeah, Adams, Chua, like both of those two as well. McGee can't really do that. Alex Len, 3,900.
Do you like Steven Adams tomorrow?
Steven Adams was like crazy popular at 4K. He's 4,300. Again, I just got done making the argument for why I liked Brandon Clark, saying Steven Adams isn't your typical big. But the other side of that coin is Steven Adams could go out there and get 15 rebounds in 20 minutes or something. Like, that's a legitimate thing you can do. 21 minutes, 12 rebounds, 31 fantasy points against Sacramento in that blowout. Somebody that's going to be playing kind of those low 20 minutes, I think, going forward for this team. That's the right way of saying that, but not somebody I want to go nuts with. But I think 4,300, I think you'll be surprised. I think he will probably have some attention, mainly because he was popular at 4K, and you know, that was a 4-gamer or a 3-gamer, I guess, was the main slate on DK on Sunday. Just kind of keep the lookout on that. I don't want to play a popular Steven Adams, but if he's going to be like unknown there, I'll take some shots on him. I think that there's more upside than you probably think there. Plus, the opportunity cost of center that we normally have does not exist on this slate. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the opportunity cost of center is probably just Julius Randle and Anthony Davis. Probably.
Yeah, and you can play him at power forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no like center only guys that like, oh, okay, I'm like missing out on.
Totally. On FanDuel, DeAndre Ayton, your most expensive guy, 7,800, who's center only. Anthony Davis, Julius Randle above him, as you just alluded to. Yusuf Nurkic, ya boy. He's kind of become ya boy because you rostered him quite a bit, I do believe. 6,400, Nurkic. I mean, that was kind of the thing over there on DK. He started to spark some upside here and there, but 6,700 on FanDuel. I don't want to go nuts with that. The one guy I want to ask you about, because I came back from, 2 weeks, or it was like a week and a half off. And it was that Robin Williams meme where it's like, what year is it? LaMarcus Aldridge, the dude's 6,100. What happened that I missed?
I think he's just got comfortable with his conditioning again. And
okay,
that's that. And I think the trust within the offense, getting more comfortable with them. And he's just been efficient. He's the king of the mid range. He's essentially the power forward version of DeMar DeRozan. And
yeah,
they were on the same team together for a couple of years, but the amount of the LaMarcus Aldridge with that mid range was he's just the king of that. He was so like that was his thing all his career. That I want to say 18 to 22 feet jumper from the elbow jumper. That's just his thing. And he's just been knocking those down. That's all he's been doing.
All right. Well, I was just curious. He's $19 on Yahoo. I think that's a fascinating number, but $32 for Pascal Siakam I expect to be popular. 27 and 25 for Ayton and Nurkic, respectively. LaMarcus Aldridge, 19. Steven Adams, 15. Precious Achiuwa, though, $14. Man, that's way too cheap for him. He's going to be very popular. What are you looking at doing to Yahoo, what are you looking to do on Yahoo to round it out at center?
Yeah, Yahoo, you can roster up to 2 centers, and look, Siakam has center eligibility, which is kind of weird to see that, but hey, he's going to be kind of, I think, low owned. I really like DeAndre Ayton's price tag at $27. Really, I think it definitely stands out to me. Aldridge at $19, you got to take some chances on a 5-game slate with him. And you nailed the Chua if you want to spend down a little bit. I think that works out just fine at $14 as well. I don't know what his ownership is going to come out there on Yahoo. I do think he'll have some popularity to himself as well. That's really about it on Yahoo. It's not that exciting of a center slate. Usually on Yahoo, you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot of center mispricing. Not tomorrow. It's going to force you to make some difficult decisions while filling out those lineups.
All right, Clippers are back to within 12. I don't know how. They were just getting pummeled here, beginning the third quarter here by the Pelicans, just like everybody expected. But hey, Ryan, another Slate starter in the books. We're on our own podcast feed. If you guys did not see, we are attached to Awesemo. No, we're not going anywhere from that. But what I got to say is that it's nice to have our own little space in the world, avoiding the NBA overlords, if you will say, to be able to talk and do our thing. But Ryan, any final words for the people?
No, it's a 5-game slate. Some moving parts, not as much as today, but you never know what can happen post-lock. So good luck, and thank you so much for yet again tuning in to another edition of the Slate Starter.
He's my boy, Ryan. I'm just Eric. We'll see you guys later.